On June 2nd, 2025, Taylor Hayes was never one to back away from the front lines of suffering. Her work as a psychiatrist had always been deeply intertwined with humanitarian efforts, and when a medical relief mission called her to South America, she accepted without hesitation. The trip was meant to last 2 weeks, a series of trauma workshops for victims of natural disasters. But on the 7th day, while traveling between 2 remote villages, her vehicle lost control on a winding dirt road and flipped into a ravine. Emergency crews responded hours later. She was found unconscious, her body battered but alive. The trauma to her head was severe. She was airlifted back to Los Angeles in critical condition. When Taylor finally opened her eyes in a private suite at University Hospital, everyone exhaled with relief. Ridge, Steffi, Thomas, even Brooke, who had visited every day despite their complicated past. But that relief lasted only seconds, because Taylor didn't recognize any of them. Her eyes scanned the room as if it were foreign. She looked at Ridge with confusion, then whispered, "Why are you looking at me like that, darling?" The voice was familiar, the tone unmistakable. And then she smiled Brooke's smile. "Did you bring the champagne?" Ridge thought it was a joke. Steffi looked uneasy. Thomas tried to break the tension. But Taylor, sitting upright, suddenly confident, continued speaking like Brooke Logan. She talked about Hope's next fashion line, about needing to reschedule a meeting with Ridge and Bill, and then asked if Deacon had stopped by with flowers yet. It wasn't mimicry. It was embodiment. Taylor believed, fully and without hesitation, that she was Brooke. Doctors initially diagnosed a dissociative identity response, likely triggered by the head injury. A form of post-traumatic identity confusion. They said it might pass. Give it time. But time didn't help. In fact, the longer Taylor remained conscious, the more deeply entrenched she became in Brooke's persona. Within days of her release from the hospital, Taylor insisted on returning to the Logan estate. She packed a bag and showed up at Brooke's house with the confidence of someone who believed she lived there. Donna and Katie were stunned. "Taylor, this is Brooke's house," Katie tried to explain gently. But Taylor brushed past them, smiled, and said, "Exactly. And it's about time I was back. I've missed the view." That night, she cooked Ridge's favorite pasta dish and texted him photos. "Dinner's waiting," she wrote. "Just like old times." Ridge didn't know what to do. He met her at the house, thinking he'd find a confused, delusional Taylor. Instead, he found her dressed in one of Brooke's gowns, one she had taken from storage. She poured wine, played the song from their first wedding, and referred to him as her soulmate. "We've been through so much," she said softly. "But I know we'll find our way back." "We always do." Ridge froze. He didn't know whether to correct her or play along. Part of him wanted to believe this was a phase. But another part of him, a darker, more terrified part, began to see the danger. This wasn't temporary. It was escalating. The situation spiraled when Taylor, still believing she was Brooke, showed up at Spencer Publications wearing a bold red dress and heels and asked Bill Spencer if he wanted to continue what they started in Aspen. Bill was blindsided. At first, he laughed. "What game is this, Taylor?" But when she leaned in and whispered details about their past, real memories, Brooke's memories, his expression changed. "You think you're her," he said, stunned. She smiled. "I don't think. I know." And she kissed him. Word traveled fast. Brooke returned from a conference in Italy to find her life being reconstructed in front of her by her greatest rival. Taylor wasn't mocking. She wasn't impersonating. She was living as Brooke Logan. She showed up at Forrester Creations, demanding access to Hope's team. She referred to Hope as her daughter and called Ridge her husband. She called Eric her ex and Deacon, a complicated chapter she was still sorting through. It was as if her mind had completely overwritten her reality. Deacon tried to confront her. He found her at Il Giardino one evening, sipping his favorite wine. She looked up and grinned. "Late, as always," she teased. "But at least you're not hiding behind a pizza oven this time." When Deacon pressed her, when he said, "You're not Brooke," her face hardened. "Don't start this again," she snapped. "You were the one who begged me to give us another chance. So here I am." Steffi and Thomas were distraught. Their mother was gone, replaced by an identity that showed no sign of cracking. And yet, legally, Taylor was of sound mind. She passed psychiatric evaluations with chilling calm. She knew dates, details, and histories, but only as Brooke. There was no legal case to force institutionalization. Brooke tried pleading with her directly. They sat across from each other in her old house, Brooke trying to reassert her identity, to anchor Taylor back to the truth. But Taylor, poised and confident, cut her off. "You've always accused me of wanting your life," she said. "Well, now I've had a taste, and I must say, it fits beautifully." The Forrester family began to fracture. Ridge was caught between two identities, his actual ex-wife and the woman he had once loved, now possessed by Brooke's ghost. Bill, intrigued and disturbed, began seeing Brooke again, fascinated by this reimagined version of the woman he once chased. Deacon, more grounded, warned everyone, "This isn't quirky. This is dangerous." And it became truly dangerous when Taylor, fully immersed in her Brooke persona, attempted to transfer Brooke's shares in Forrester to Hope, claiming it was part of her long-term legacy plan. Lawyers caught it in time, but the intent was clear. This wasn't just psychological confusion. It was a hostile takeover from inside the mind of someone they all trusted. Then came the breaking point. During a private dinner at the Cliff House, Taylor lured Ridge under the guise of a reconciliation. She dressed in Brooke's wedding gown, played their wedding video on loop, and proposed. "It's time," she said tearfully. "Let's finish what we started." Ridge stood frozen. "Taylor," he said, "you're not Brooke. And this isn't your wedding." Taylor began to cry, but not from confusion, from fury. "You loved me when I was her," she said. "You can't just stop because I've finally embraced who I am. Maybe I've always been her. Maybe this is who I was meant to be." She lunged at him not with violence, but with desperation. Steffi and Thomas intervened. Brooke arrived moments later. And in that scene, surrounded by family, the real Taylor broke through, for one split second. Her face contorted. She looked around and whispered, "What's happening to me?" And then she collapsed. Taylor was taken into full psychiatric care under emergency medical evaluation. Doctors finally diagnosed a rare condition triggered by trauma, identity delusional substitution syndrome, where one's identity is replaced entirely by another, often someone emotionally significant. It wasn't madness, it was psychological self-erasure. Brooke stood over her hospital bed. "You were never meant to be me," she said softly. "You were strong. You were brilliant. You were you." Taylor, sedated, didn't respond, but a single tear slid down her cheek. Ridge watched from the doorway, unsure of who he was mourning, the woman he once loved or the one who tried to love him by becoming someone else. Outside the hospital, Deacon and Bill crossed paths. Neither spoke. They just exchanged a look that said everything. This was no longer about rivalry. This was about survival. And in the shadow of Taylor's fall, the Logan and Forrester families were forced to ask one brutal question. When identity becomes obsession, who gets to own the truth? And more importantly, who's next? The Bold and the Beautiful detonates a new powder keg of chaos, secrets, and psychological warfare, centering on the increasingly dangerous Luna Nozawa and the fragile alliance between the Sharp and Forrester families. What begins as another tense week in Los Angeles rapidly escalates into a spiraling series of betrayals, manipulations, and moral reckonings that once again prove that in this world, no redemption comes without consequences and no loyalty survives untouched. It starts with Sheila Carter Sharp, already teetering after weeks of emotional instability and an unraveling marriage. Luna, her volatile and increasingly erratic granddaughter, continues to disregard every warning and plea. Sheila had urged Luna to leave LA, to lay low, to stop poking the bear that is Steffi Forrester Finnegan. But Luna, intoxicated by obsession and fueled by a belief that her connection to Finn is fate, not delusion, pushes back harder. When Sheila tells her to walk away, Luna smiles. Not with warmth, but with something sinister, calculating. And then she says it quietly, too quietly. Maybe we remove Steffi instead. The words aren't even as horrifying as the grin that follows. It's not just suggestion. It's intent. Sheila recoils. Even she, once a woman who pulled the trigger on Steffi herself, knows this is wrong. She knows how easily revenge poisons everything. And now it's happening again, this time in Luna's voice. Sheila, desperate not to repeat her past, seeks help in the most unexpected direction. Penelope Poppy Nozawa, her estranged relative, mother of Luna, and someone with her own broken track record when it comes to family loyalty. Sheila begs her. You're the only one she still listens to. She needs to leave. Before this becomes something we can't undo. Poppy is torn. She's tried to stay out of Luna's spirals, but this is too much. And for once, Sheila's panic isn't rooted in control, it's real fear. Poppy reluctantly agrees to intervene. Meanwhile, Deacon Sharp walks into his own nightmare. Sheila, driven by equal parts guilt and premonition, finally confesses. She tells Deacon everything. Luna's suggestion to eliminate Steffi, her refusal to leave LA, the darkness growing in her eyes. Deacon is stunned. His entire world rattles under the weight of what Sheila's hidden. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He demands. Before it got this far? Sheila can't answer. She only knows that something terrible is coming. She can feel it in her bones. And for once, she's trying to stop it. Deacon paces. His mind floods with questions, with rage, with dread. But after the wave passes, what remains is love, the twisted, undying, impossibly loyal love he still holds for Sheila. If you told me this, he says softly, then you still believe there's time. So let's stop her before it's too late. The marriage trembles, but doesn't break. At least, not yet. But outside the Sharp home, the storm continues building. Luna, having been ejected from Steffi and Finn's life, makes one final, unhinged move. She confronts Steffi again. At the hospital. In public. This time she doesn't scream. She doesn't threaten. She whispers. You'll never win. He doesn't love you like he loves me. You're in the way. Steffi, visibly disturbed, files a restraining order. Ridge finds out within hours, and the war ignites. Ridge doesn't hesitate. He alerts every member of the family, including Will Spencer, now a rising figure in the Spencer business empire, and Ellicra Forrester, Ridge's niece who recently returned from Paris to work at Forrester Creations. He tells them everything, Luna's threats, her instability, and her access to Sheila. He makes it clear no one is safe until Luna is out of LA. But Luna isn't hiding anymore. In fact, she's escalating. A hidden surveillance camera catches her in a downtown alley exchanging cash with a known felon, an arms dealer. Within minutes, the video hits Ridge's desk. In it, Luna purchases a black market handgun. Her words, caught on low-grade audio, are bone-chilling. She won't see it coming. Back at Spencer Publications, Bill Spencer hears everything from his intelligence contacts. He calls Luna in, alone, in his office. Not to threaten, but to trap. Luna arrives, poised, calm, dressed in soft colors, almost innocent-looking. But Bill knows better. He circles her with words, baiting her with concern. Then, when she lets her guard down, he turns. "Let me make this clear," he says coldly. "I don't care who your mother is. I don't care who your grandmother is. You go near Steffi again, and you'll find yourself buried under the full weight of the Spencer machine. And that's if the Forrester side doesn't get to you first." Luna laughs. "You can't touch me. I was cleared. Pardoned. You can't undo that." Bill smirks. "I don't need to undo it. I just need to catch you slipping. And believe me, I will." He hands her a small envelope. Inside is a single photo, her handing off cash to the arms dealer. "You've already slipped." Luna leaves, shaken but not defeated. Instead, she doubles down. She changes locations, burns her phone, and disappears. The police put out an alert, but she's already gone underground. Sheila, meanwhile, collapses into panic. She begs Poppy again. Find her before someone else does. Poppy starts tracking her daughter with every resource she has. The final twist of the week comes just as the Forrester family regroups at the Cliff House, under increased security. Finn, now fully informed of Luna's spiral, is tormented. He feels guilty for not seeing it sooner, for letting her in, for not drawing the line hard enough. But it's Steffi who remains firm. "She's not your responsibility," she says. "She made her choices. You protected this family. That's all that matters." But just outside the perimeter of the Cliff House, a shadow moves. A figure watches through the binoculars. Luna, disguised, breathing heavily, watching the lights, watching the windows, watching Finn. And from the shadows, she murmurs to herself, "One last chance. Then I fix everything." As the screen fades to black, one final image remains, the grip of the gun, visible in Luna's coat. Her face unreadable, her intent clear. And so, the story barrels toward another deadly cliff. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, vengeance isn't just a temptation, it's a tradition. And forgiveness is always one breath too late.